Okay, I'm going to share my screen. And I'm going to try and share from Canva, okay, which is my new favorite platform, but it can be a bit glitchy. So we might have to revert to good old PowerPoint. And what I don't have is my colleague's not here yet, and so she will be co-hosting with me and helping the waiting room. So I might have to fiddle around with that for a little bit to let people in. So please bear with me. But welcome and thank you. I know this term is crazy, as is every term. There is no easy time to do anything. But when we come together for a Dollan webinar, it's always very informal. It's always hopefully very informative, and it is very much a platform of bringing our network together for everybody to discuss good practice and ideas. There are a few rules, so can you stay muted and can you be mindful in any communication so that we're not going to upset anybody. But if everyone's muted, then it means that you can hear me, and then when we have time for discussion, feel free to unmute or use the chat where appropriate. Okay, as I said, I'm recording, so if you don't want your video on, that's absolutely fine. And at the end of the session, I will share the slides so you'll have access to everything that we talk about and all the links. All right, so what I'd like us to do this afternoon is just find out a little bit more about Dollan if you are new, investigate the word and the terminology of sustainability and partnerships and why we're coming together to look at this. We are coming to the end of one of our projects, and so it's very important that partnerships go away with some tools to understand how to move forward when they're on their own. Their partnership doesn't necessarily have funding, so how do they continue to keep the momentum alive? And we've got some brilliant examples from primary school partnership in Cardiff and Tafod Seca, and then one in Buryport and Cwting in Lesotho. And what we'll have at the end is a chance to talk and come up with some top tips, and I will share with you some next steps and future opportunities with Dollan. So, for those of you that are new, apologies to those of you that are not. Just a reminder of who we are. So Dollan Cymru Lesotho, the Wales Lesotho link is 39 years old. We're going to have our 40th birthday next year. So we're hoping that there'll be lots of active participation. And anyone that is new to us, I'm trying to get up to 40 active links that are new to our partnership network. So if you want to promote us in any way, please do. But for those of you that have not met me, but I think you have all met me, I'm the co-director in charge of programs and partnerships. So I'm Sharon Flintwood, and Kath Malongo is my colleague who is in charge of governance and financial running of the charity. So, you know, we have existed for a long time in different ways. We are up and down with funding and projects, but we have a very strong hold on being able to deliver education projects with funding. And then we also work on health and sport projects, which is more volunteer-led. But the aim is to promote and to facilitate projects between different communities in Wales. So it could be schools, health professionals, sports professionals, to work together and share learning. And we have our certain values of working, which are centred around good partnership models, collaboration and inclusiveness, being responsible and ethical in what you do, responding to the needs of everybody in the partnerships, celebrating and promoting diversity, and recognising and celebrating the work that we do as well. So making sure that our stories are shared and they're shared in an ethical way. So I've given you some of the answers of the first question, really, because, you know, what we want to identify, excuse me, I'm going backwards, is what do we mean by sustainable partnerships? So have a little think about that whilst I talk about Dollan, because it is at the core of what we do, but what we are talking about now is how that works in a school context. So Dollan is growing, as you can see. We've got staff in Wales and we've got staff in Lesotho. It's very part-time led, so we're strong but mighty, so we're all part-time, and we all work on a variety of different projects. But as I've said, you know, the centre of our values really is what underpins the uniqueness about our charity and working with the country to twinning. You know, we're all fiercely proud of our heritage, culture and language, experiences, lived experience, learning, expertise. Everybody that comes to Dollen has a thirst for that, and that is something that we really are motivated by and fired up by. And our schools partnerships is really the foundation of that, because it is very long lasting and far reaching in the work that you guys can do with your students, and how that they move on through the school and how they go into their secondary schools, sometimes with the partnerships as well. So this is just repeating what I've already said, but in particular with our schools work, we want to make sure that every opportunity we provide and work with is giving young people a strong voice and a good set of skills to be able to navigate the world and the global landscape, hoping for a brighter future for everybody, looking at the next generation. So our current education work falls into 4 categories mainly, but these are our funded programmes. So what underpins these 3 funded programmes is School Linking. Now, School Linking has existed for a long time, but there's no specific funding for it. So it's platforms like this and opportunities that let us give you more knowledge, let everybody else share their expertise, because we don't offer a series of supported sessions or coaching or anything with schools, because we just don't have the funds or staff. But it is embedded into each of our funded programmes, so we try to overlap as much as possible. So one of the programmes is the Wales Teacher Placement Programme, where teachers come from Lesotho for 4 to 5 weeks, and they're placed in schools where they teach and they work in their specialist areas, but they also work on the School Linking and global citizenship side of the partnerships. We have the Taith International Exchange, which many of you are part of. So we've got Taith 2, which is finishing, which is Pride of Place. And we've got Taith 3, which is just starting on health, well-being and sport. So that is our amazingly lucky consortium project that enables people to travel again. So, you know, with the COVID lockdown, we had to transfer everything online, and partnerships did struggle through that. Prior to that, there was funding through the British Council that we supported. We didn't get the funding ourselves to lead the project, whereas now we're leading Taith, and it's very exciting where we can send teachers and students, as you know. So we also have a third project, which is Taith, but we don't call it Taith because it's very confusing. So this is Pathway 2, whereas the schools is Pathway 1. So future learning, or future thinking, actually, this is we've got different terminology here. Future thinking is learning through international links in 40 and 200 years. Now, I don't know if Rachel has come in. I can't see the waiting room. Are you there, Rach? Do you want to jump in? Can anyone see? Oh no, I can see she's messaged me.
Yeah, I was actually on a different meeting. Yeah. So
Rachel's leading on this project, so can you just say a little bit? I've told you I've written the wrong title there, Rachel. I do apologise.
Yeah, well, futures thinking it's all about the future, isn't it? Whatever we determine it to be called. The overall goal for Futures Thinking is about increasing Welsh learners' view and their experience of Wales as an outward-looking nation. It has 6 different aims, and that is, the first one is primarily supporting the delivery of the curriculum in Wales so that learners become ethical, informed citizens of Wales and the world. And ultimately creating learners that are knowledgeable about their culture, their community, and just the wider world in general. And it's promoting critical thinking skills both in Wales and Lesotho, contributing and upholding the Welsh Government's aim to become an anti-racist nation, and increase knowledge of climate justice with Welsh learners, increase teachers in Wales and Lesotho's knowledge of how to deliver inclusive learning, and teachers knowledgeable in developing mindful and informed language and ethical storytelling. I mean, that's a whole other story, but yeah, so it's to develop teachers' skills in using the appropriate language. And the school participation is, well, currently we've got 2 schools in Wales and 2 in Lesotho, and they're partnered up with each other. And through their partnership, and they will deliver the resources which I will produce in Wales, and then my colleagues in the National University of Lesotho, their development for the Basotho people. And they also collaborate with one another and develop their own resources and what we hope would be a deeper understanding of the cultural differences and similarities. So there's also an exchange visit whereby the teachers will go to Lesotho, and I think there's just one Basotho teacher coming back to Wales. Excuse me. So ultimately, at the end of the project, there'll be a video that's produced by the young people in Basotho showing their entrepreneurial skills. There'll be an event whereby both Welsh and Basotho teachers can share their learning in the audiences in both countries. And the education packs that we create will be accessible online. When it comes to the actual learning, I hope I'm not going too fast.
Yeah.
So the actual learning for the Futures Thinking is divided into 2 parts. So the first looks at the past, and then the second, well, we call them phases, but the second phase then, or the second part, will be the future. And in the first phase, which is about the past, we look at the local and global communities, and we look at charity versus solidarity, and then also the similarities between Welsh and Basotho culture. And then phase 2 will go into the future aspect of it, looking at climate justice, future thinking, you know, Lesotho at 80 and Lesotho at 400, trying to inspire in children, looking ahead, being aware of what is going on in the world. And then also we're going to look at Basotho innovation and youth enterprise. Now, within that learning, there will be an emphasis on adding depth and context to issues such as diversity and cultural nuance, understanding the impact of choices and the attitudes that our young learners have, how to challenge racial stereotypes, how to promote positive perspectives of African countries and Africans, investigating, looking at saviorism, charity versus solidarity, and promoting positive attitudes and respecting other people's rights and their needs, as we both live in Wales and Lesotho in diverse societies. And we also will deliver training for teachers on future thinking, so then they can deliver that in the classrooms. And then looking at the relationship between both countries 40 years ago and 200 years ago, so that putting some context for our young learners then to reframe and potentially solve problems in the future. That was a lot to take in, I'm aware.
That was great. Rachel's been practicing that pitch because it's quite a complicated project.
I've tried to really kind of just narrow it right down to what the project actually is.
Well, I'm hoping many people that are listening that are established partnerships and have been working with us already will be going, yes, tick, 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 because what this project does is bring a lot more depth to what we've already been doing. So, you know, we were excited by this opportunity by TITHE because it's about collaboration and strategy, and improving practice, having innovative education resources. So what that means is that the work that comes out of this Futures project will be accessible to all partnerships. And for the first time, there will be resources that have been designed in Lesotho for Basotho schools that are within the right context and not through the Welsh lens. So, you know, our way of working is to really, you know, have discussions and communication about that dialogue of collaboration and making sure that we're all working in a way that is ethical and anti-racist. You'll see from the slide there, all of these projects have, you know, set values and ways of working that promote anti-racism, global citizenship, critical thinking, professional development, reducing prejudice, and then, you know, really promoting that idea of long-term commitment as well. So the case studies you hear from today, you know, they are long-standing partnerships, and there's a reason why that's worked, and that's the magic that we want to share with you today. I'm really aware that the time is flying, so I'm going to crack on. Feel free to put any questions in the chat, and if we don't cover it, then I'll follow up. Okay. So this is all, you know, I don't want to take too long on this, but, you know, have a think about why these are so important and what else is added to this definition. So what is a sustainable partnership? What am I talking about? Why is this called a sustainable partnerships webinar? Does anyone want to throw in any comments or ideas? Don't be shy. It's very informal space, guys. Tadej Litseka, I can see you've unmuted. Do you want to say something?
I'm still thinking. I'm still thinking.
Well, and Tadej, you're part of a very sustainable partnership. So, how would you define it?
Sustainable partnership. I think that is the partnership that can stay for a long time.
Yeah, long lasting. It's a long time. And what makes the partnership part of it work? What is a good partnership?
Pardon?
What makes the partnership side of it work, do you think? I'm sorry, I'm picking on you now. We've got some good points in the chat there. So a partnership that can last without us, without Dolan, and it doesn't depend on one teacher. Absolutely. And what would you say? Does anyone want to chip into what is a good partnership? What makes a partnership successful?
Good communication.
Absolutely, top of the list. You're right. Good communication. And something that we've just been talking about with Rachel's project as well is having that balance of both perspectives. And that's really, really key. And that's what you'll see in these examples today, that not relying on one country to lead, that it needs to be as balanced and equitable as possible. So that's the page that we're on, okay, folks? And I'm preaching to the converted for many of you that are well established, but for those that are new, that is the long game. That is the wish, that the partnerships between these two countries are long lasting. And so it does involve more people, but it's a slow journey. So I'm going to give you a few more examples now. I keep going backwards with my slides. I do apologize. I'm not used to Canva. It's yeah, I'm not quite sure what's happening. Right, sorry, we go back to go forward. All right, so our first partnership I'm going to talk about a little bit, and I've got a video. They can't be here today, I'm afraid. I don't know actually if Mamotswani or Lerato are here from Thabet Seka. I haven't seen if they've come in or not. If you are, please chip in. But Ninian Park is in Cardiff, and Thabet Seka Primary School is in Thabet Seka, as I've said. And you know, they've been around for a long time. They started pre-COVID, and they've been involved in other projects of Dolan's. And I think that does help a partnership and a school really begin to embed and make the work sustainable when there's more understanding and more context about both countries. It doesn't mean if you are not involved in Dolan you can't do a good partnership, but it just does make it thrive a little bit more. And so Ninian Park and Thabet Seka have been involved in the Wales Teacher Placement Programme. They've been involved in connecting classrooms. They've been involved in our literacy work and our resilience work that was done online and now in person in Lesotho. And they are currently finishing off the Taith 2 project. Because of the wide experience, they've been able to learn how to co-design and plan projects well, and also take into account different staff skills. You'll see the photograph there that they made as part of the Pride of Place project, this lovely collaborative screen printed blanket, which was started with Welsh pupils, and then it was conducted in Lesotho during the visit, where they were screen printing with small screens, and then it was completed when the Lesotho teacher Mela Rato came over in July. Vicky will tell you a little bit more about this in the video that I've got now. So Vicky is the project lead, but she works very closely with her other 2 colleagues that have been involved, which makes it easier, because a partnership is extra work on top of your very busy lives. And to do it well, you do need to do research, you do need to think, you do need to have time to contact your partners and project plan together. So if you're trying to do all that on your own, it is tricky. So the more people involved, the better, but it does start slowly. Vicky started on her own, and then she's slowly built in buy-in throughout the school. So pupil voice is prioritised right from the get-go with these projects, and they've got into a very good habit of sharing their learning. So you can see this project really clearly on their project partnership Padlet, but I want you to hear from them first to hear a little bit more. So So Mela Rato sent me this video because she really wanted to show one of the big impacts that have come out of the project that they're working on now. She sent me words rather than an audio, just to summarise how it's worked from her side in Thabot Seca. But the partnership has grown to a point where everyone is involved. Not only did they do their creative project this year and celebrate different national days throughout the project cycle of the year, they've been able to share initiatives, and this has come out of some previous work done on wellbeing and previous work done on water, sanitation and hygiene that is about creating that pupil champion. And that's quite a new initiative in Lesotho, but it's something that was discussed and selected as an idea of shared expertise, and that's what has come out of part of this project now. We've got wellbeing champions, and so this video clip is of the wellbeing champions going to each class, and they go every morning and do different activities to allow students to express their emotions, take part in some creative or mindfulness activity, and get them ready for the day, which is a real innovative adoption for a school that hasn't got that necessarily in the curriculum. So it's a great outcome of this project alongside the creative tasks. I'm going to just play the video from Vicky, who will tell you a little bit more about how this has happened. We'll go back to go forward maybe. There we go.
Hi, my name's Vicky. I'm one of the 3 teachers from Ninian Primary School that was involved with the partnership with Thabot Seca Primary this year. We've really enjoyed this project in particular because it allowed for lots of different creative outlets and lots of different opportunities for groups of children to be involved. So when we were out in Lesotho, we were able to expand the groups that we worked with. We worked with every single grade, which was brilliant for inclusivity. We did some artwork with some, linking into our final exhibition piece, which will be a shared mural. I think you'll find out a bit more about that possibly a bit later. We worked with another year group, grade 6, doing some poetry. And we worked with grade 5, looking at building well-being and how they can take ownership of regulation of their emotions and expression of those as well. which has ended up with Wellbeing Champions. We're really excited because that's almost ending up now as a bridge for us to continue that work on into the next phase of the project this year. During Mel Arate's time then in Wales, she was able to work really closely with the 3 members of staff that were the core group from Wales going out to Lesotho to work with learners across the school here on the art project, which has culminated in a beautiful shared cultural blanket celebrating Pride of Place in Wales and Lesotho. And it will be given Pride of Place in both of our schools following the exhibition celebrating the project in Chapter Arts Centre later this year. She was also able to launch the Wellbeing Champions here as well, so giving the ownership and the leadership to both teachers on both sides of the partnership, which we think is really, really important. So why is our project being successful? For us, I think it's about building year on year on what we do. So our project, you may have heard already, originally started after my visit to Lesotho with the Lesotho Teacher Placement Programme with Dolan Cymru in 2018. So we were lucky in that we had already had the face-to-face contact there. I appreciate that starting a project and a link out when you don't have that as your initial basis is quite tough. Going forward, we then joined Connecting Classrooms, and Abby and myself were going to take part in a visit out to Lesotho in 2020. You know, the world turned upside down that year, so that didn't happen. But actually, we found that the technology side of things really, really helped us there. And it meant that both sides of the link had a lot more ownership. So we were responsible for taking care of things in Wales and communicating with Lesotho, and our Bonme in Lesotho were responsible for doing the same, vice versa, and working with their children. So it was a great leveler, actually. Technology and the use of technology in a shared period of change was actually quite a positive thing. So one of the things that was successful is that. And the other, as I've mentioned, Abby came on board in 2019, 2020, and then we've been able to extend the team that's the core team to 3 in this last round of Tithe project as well, with Catherine coming on board. Each of us has our own interests and expertise, and that's really fed into the inquiry in the project this year, which has been brilliant. Same has happened out in Lesotho. So with the visits across and people having the opportunity, it's not just one teacher out in Lesotho responsible for that link. There are 2 core teachers out there with another 3 or 4 that are very, very solidly involved. And following this year's link, we've actually now got a WhatsApp group with the whole staff of Tabat Seka Primary School. So in terms of top tips, our top tips for having an equitable and sustainable partnership would be communication. Communication is obviously central to everything. In the beginning, just sharing who you are and what your common interests are goes a long way. We found that in the beginning, we're all a bit shy to talk on camera and talk on WhatsApp and etc. So getting over that hurdle and really sharing small things about day-to-day life really starts to build those relationships up. Having an open communication about what you're both interested in terms of getting out of the project was really, really vital as well. We found this year asking each other, what do you want to gain from your time with us, meant that everybody knew where they stood and what was expected. And then nobody felt disappointed or let down by anything. Also, it opened up the dialogue of, well, is that the most beneficial use of time? For example, if you ask me what I want to find out, I might pick something I'm already a little bit comfortable with because I know what to expect. But actually, is that going to be the thing that's going to grow me in my professional role the most? And that was interesting discussions that we had there. Sustainability, really important to involve more than one person. We're a massive school. We've got 600 plus pupils, 3 formentary primary school, very multicultural. So for us, having more than one member of staff so that if anybody does move on, you've always got somebody to continue and carry the torch on has been really, really important. And also for the children, they're having the consistency of hearing and seeing and learning about Lesotho in a progressive way each year. And that's the same in Tabat Seka Primary. They're hearing and they're seeing and they're learning about Wales and the link between the two in different avenues and elements throughout their schooling. So we had a link project where we were looking at environment and sustainability, making pledges to the planet. This has been looking at Pride of Place, which was really lovely as sort of an extra relaunch to show the children how important it is to be proud of where you're from and to celebrate that and shared community and differences and similarities. Looking forward now, we're looking at health and well-being and how similarities and differences there can really empower the children to make change as well. The final top tip I would share is to be flexible. Don't be going in with a fixed mindset of what you think should happen, particularly as the Welsh visitors going out first. When you're in Lesotho, things will change and you need to be able to respond and be flexible to get the most out of it. Often it's the unexpected activities and experiences with children and learners out there and teachers as well that are the most beneficial. We ended up leading teacher training when we visited that wasn't planned and creating a big outdoor mural for outdoor learning of phonics, which again, we weren't really sure if that was going to work, but being responsive and flexible goes both ways and it takes the project a long way, possibly into positive and unexpected avenues that you hadn't thought about.
Thank you, Vicky. That's so hilarious because I really feel like she's speaking live. She's very good at her online video making skills. I could see Mama Swani came in from Tabit Seca. Are you there, my dear? Do you want to unmute and just tell us a little bit about what you think makes your partnership so successful and sustainable?
Okay, hello everyone.
Everyone's muted. We can hear you, May.
Okay, how are you everyone?
They're quiet. Go ahead.
Are you able to hear me? You're fine.
We do hear you.
Yeah, we can hear you, May.
Okay, so to answer May Sharon's question, I think our link it is still progressing well because each and every time we are used to share the events that are taking place in our school and also the events that are taking place in our country as large. So each and every time we are able to share the activities that are done by our students in different classes and also in the school as large. So every time we are able to chat, share everything that is taking place that are related to teaching and learning. So that's why our friendship is still continuing and we value it so much.
Thank you, May. That's a really, really good reflection because I think what I would finish our session on when we come to the end is the power of the cross-fertilization of ideas, you know, so that sharing sometimes you might think is insignificant, but it's not, because it really does create that shared platform for the unexpected as well. And you never know where your partnership can go. We have examples of schools that, you know, are flying the flag and being case studies and being part of research projects, and you know, it's really quite exciting. That doesn't have to be your goal. You know, your goal can be a slow, methodical, consistent partnership that slowly gets embedded in your school. But, you know, you can be ambitious as well. It's totally up to you. Okay, we're going to move on to our high school partnership because we've only got 15 kind of minutes left. Okay, May Angelique from Glanamore is going to share, and I'm hoping colleagues from Miami will chip in too. Do you want to just pop your video on, May, so we can see you?
I am trying, sorry.
Don't worry if it's failing, we can hear you.
Okay, I'm not sure what's happening. It was ready and it's no longer working, the video, but can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, would someone from Miami High School speak first?
Hello everyone.
Hi, May.
Hello, May.
Am I audible?
Yes.
Okay. My name is Ntshepe Ntladi from Moyeni High School. Actually, I may better say from Kleni Moyeni, as it is the name of our partnership between Clenimore, Escort Clenimore in Barryport and Moyeni High School in Kuching. The partnership has been there and existing, in fact, since 2008. So the exchange visits began in 2009, actually. So since then, the partnership has been highly successful, based on equity and learning from each other. Giving a few examples, you may consider during the exchange visits, the learners from both schools attend classes together, play together, share opinions and experiences together. And even the learners and together with the teachers, they work together on a particular project. For example, we had a project on building keyhole gardens and the greenhouse at our school in Kuching. Even we also built a keyhole garden in Wales in 2023. So we're working together regardless of our differences or similarities, but the actual fact is that we're able to work together, and that improves or it helps the partnership to be very sustainable and successful. Apart from that, we are always cautious of celebrating our special days together. For example, the St. David's Day, the Moshasha's Day, just to name a few. So maybe one of us can also want to chip in. Let me not say everything. Thank you.
Thank you, May.
Okay, thank you, May. I will have to continue with just my voice. I really don't know what's happened. So there's no camera, but you hear me? Yes?
Yeah.
Okay, right. So
Yes.
I totally agree with what you've said, May Ntshepe. I'm Angelique from Glanamore School in Barryport, partnered with Moyeni High School, and we formed the Glanamore partnership, or gang, we could call ourselves that now, I suppose. We've been going on for years, and from the tipping into the tips, by saying that go for it for new partnerships. It seems if you've got a new partnership, especially from a secondary point of view, taking students, is that we very, very quickly in our partnership had the same vision. As regards to students was our focus. It seems the obvious, but it is with the fact that we worked. We've had projects because it helps us all to focus on something together. But that's something that we present and work with and for the students in our schools, it is something that helps us focus in a way, like any other partnerships indeed. But especially when you work with students and you travel or you have the exchange visits with students, that gives something at first to work on, to have a common base, and then with the exchange visits that are the icing on the cake. And what makes also Glanamore work is that the students click as well, or they learn to be in completely new environment, but in a safe way, because the teachers or the adults that we are of Glanamore are here to support, and it's a safe place, and it's absolutely okay. It can be challenging, and it can be also most valuable and lifetime experiences for that. So yes, the students, it's obvious, we in the school, we work with young people, but that brings us all together. And every time we discuss year in, year out of a project, it was what do we need for our school communities, the physicality of it, and also the people who make it. And it worked nicely that one project was leading on to another one naturally. So what was maybe a need for Glanamore at first, to work on a sustainable, like what do you call it, a green action back in the days, or green flag action. We learned a lot from our partners there, and it led on to the following year of Moyeni High School asking how can we improve our playtime or common area, free time area in our school. So we worked on a project for that as well. So there are many projects we've done, you can imagine, over the years, but it's coming from a real will to work together, and what makes maybe one school will benefit a bit more for 1 year and then the other one for another year, or it's but the equality is there in the sense that we've listened to each other, we've shared what we wanted, what our students would like, what could work, what didn't work as well so well, but it's that dialogue that really goes on, and the fact that that's what I hope and wish to the new partnerships, that they go in, that they have that mindset that it is not a one-off. The funding might make it a one-off. However, there's more to it, and if when you meet as staff and it clicks, just go for it. And the tip would be to have clear expectations and objectives of what you want, however little they might be. But they meet your partnership, they suit and fit your partnership and your school communities and wider communities as well. The big one would be also to remember, or to be aware that there's a big commitment for the lead teachers and the colleagues and the team around them. The Taith stroke Dolan Cymru, who supports Taith, and this year's next year's exchange visits and partnerships with Taith 3. The project cycle of Taith is not matching a school year, or it is an academic school year, but it's a treadmill. It's very hectic with deadlines, especially from a secondary point of view. You need to work and prepare those youngsters to go within now 4 months, 5 months before going for the first round. It is very hectic, and they need to be prepared. So you also need, as leaders in your school of the project, to commit yourself on top of your teaching commitments and managerial commitments that you may have, because there are deadlines. There's a lot of, I know I'm talking funding here, but there are deadlines, and there's a lot of money that has been given. So therefore, you also have that responsibility to your grant provider and to Doran, who lead the way and make sure that it is happening. So that commitment is, yes, it will be outside your school hours. It could be a last minute job in the last week before you go, and the last few weeks before the Basuto come over to Wales. It's a reality, and you'll do as you wish, but it is a commitment that you owe the grant and the scheme and your students. For that, and keep the students as the focus of your work. Of course, it's easy to say, and if you want to do and go on the research part, it's very humble as well. But I'm talking from Glanamore, for whom the focus is the students, and then the staff in a way, but all together, of course. But the students are the core of what we do.
Amazing, Angelique, thank you. What I'm very pleased about is that everything I've written to sum up our session today, you and May Vicky and Mama Swani have all said very similar things, which is brilliant. And I'm glad you bring up the commitment issue. There's a lot of big C words in this project that's really important, and you do need to commit. I would say for those of you that are on the new projects now, just slowly building in your understanding and giving it time each week is really important, because it's a lot when it comes to the visits, and you need to be prepared for the visits, and it's the same on both sides. The Basuto schools get a bit more scaffolding with their preparations, because the way of the world, that the UK visa immigration system is very difficult. So we support that, and it takes a long time to make sure that all of that stuff is put into place, and that can be a distraction from the project. So more people being involved to help with the project will alleviate some of that burden for some of those teachers. But one of the things I just noted, Angelique, from what you said there, is also that you gain more confidence. So as the partnership grows, you are more confident to be able to manage the projects and manage the expectations.
Absolutely, yes.
Isn't it?
Yes, because like well, you've got to start somewhere, of course, and that's the theme is given for. So I'm talking to the new partnership for Thai 3. The theme is health and well-being. So that is your framework. Is very vague, and it is really not vague, but it's broad. Sorry, so you can do anything and everything really, and from that and the discussion, yeah, you should the future of your partnerships, then you'll focus on something that might be seen as, well, that's not much, but actually when you involve the students and make it from beginning to end, with its ups and downs, that big idea that became a little something is actually really big for your partnership, and nobody can well, I'm nearly talking like the students now, but nobody can diss it because that's your work. That is your work, and it means something. As long, well, for us, it means a lot, because yeah, students are involved from beginning to end. Even though I can't build a keyhole garden before the Basuto who help us, and that they Kumesi and me Mantai building a keyhole garden was probably not maybe learning much themselves, but they've learned how to motivate our students to work and finish what they started. So everybody's gaining something when you see it, when you want to see it.
Yeah.
So
Right.
yeah, that's it.
Thank you, my dear. Okay, I'll just share my last couple of slides, guys. And like I said, I will send them over to you and to those of you that have had to dip out. You will see a repetition. Oh, hang on. Now this is where I'm going to go back to go forward. So there's links to the Padlets for the case studies that we've just shared with you. A bit of summary there, which Angelique and me in Sepang have already mentioned, but something that is really strong about the Glanamoyeni partnership as well is that the primary feeder schools are involved. And so if you are a secondary school and you're working with your feeders as part of the Lesotho partnership, that has untold benefits. You know, those students coming through learning about the link in even year 1, going through to year 6, and then coming into their secondary school and still learning more about the link and meeting students is very powerful indeed. That is one of the goals that we would love, is that we do have that bridge partnership between primary and secondary schools in clusters. But that's another story, and that's another research project which I can share you the link to if you want, because I did do that paper during lockdown. There's a couple of pictures, and we've got the Padlet for the Glanamoyeni project this time, and you can access their social media. So please do have a look at some of these examples. We don't have much room for discussion, but what I would say is that I know the group are very open. So if you want to follow up with any questions or queries, I know many of the teachers will be very happy to help you with that and share anything with you, as do Dolan. But coming back to what we said at the beginning, that your intention should be to not need Dolan, and Dolan's intention is to work away from a lot of what we do so that you can start a partnership and help facilitate it, but then you're not needed. And it's not just schools, it might be with other projects that we're doing in Lesotho, and that is our intention. So top tips that I put together do summarize what we've talked about today. So communication is key. That was one of the first things that was said. Never make assumptions, always have a space for open conversation so that you can navigate expectations between you so that they're clear, and then you will be able to misalign any miscommunications. And this is in your own schools as well as in the partnership schools, so that people know what's going on and people have an opportunity to get involved as well. Like I said, working with more than one teacher is of benefit to you. So be flexible, build it around current projects. You don't need to reinvent the wheel. You can steal and be a magpie from other projects that have already been successful if it's a fit for your school. But as what was mentioned, there is a needs assessment element of it. So you look at your schools and go, right, what do we need to learn from each other? And it's not about resource need and money. It's about what is there a gap in our school that perhaps our partners can help us with, and vice versa. But be realistic, think of it long term so that you're not putting too much pressure on yourself, because then you can burn out. Share the milestones. I didn't put the important days there, but that's a very important part of the way in which we work. The Global Learning Celebration Days, particularly around March, are really, really important. And we start building in new opportunities for this type of sharing around World Children's Day and Earth Day, so that we all come together with a shared mutual interest in future generations ultimately. Involve learners, but also embed the partnership with the learners leading the partnership as much as possible. And something we didn't also mention is bringing in that element of peer-to-peer learning and leadership. So if you're doing a project in a primary school and you're not going to have students visiting, you can still have online sharing. It is quite feasible. You sometimes have to be flexible and work out different ways to do it, but it is possible, and it's very, very beneficial. Celebrate your achievements, and make it big news. Make sure your school leadership know what's happening. Make sure your governors know, even your community. If you're communicating with parents and wider community, let them know, because it starts to bring the conversation back to the home that is a window into the world on both sides, and you can't underestimate the strength of that. Apply for project funding, so look for opportunities. We will let schools know whenever there is an opportunity that we can help facilitate, but that isn't the only option. There are other things out there. So you've got TIThe that you can't apply as an individual school. I don't know, you can. No, ignore that, as another conversation. You've got TIThe, but there is also the UK scheme called Turing, so you might be able to have a look at that. And I did hear the other day that there was chat of Erasmus coming back, so we'll see if that is going to materialise. But I don't know what the situation with TIThe will be then. But sign up to global learning platforms where possible, so that you are building your expertise during the project, and also within your school you're allowing for the opportunity to share what you were learning as well. And keep in touch with us as a network. So if you're not part of the funded project, make sure that you're still signed up to all our information and our newsletters, so that there's chances for future collaborations. And we have set things in the diary. So last slide, for those of you that are new, you've had your project meetings. Those of you that are new to Lincoln but not part of a project, please look at our School Lincoln Padlet. It's got everything on there to get started. And Rachel will more than happily give you a call or communicate with you to help get you started and get you communicating. We've got our current projects that, and particularly TIThe 2, will be leading a World Children's Day online webinar. Everyone's welcome to that. That would be hearing from the young people involved in TIThe 2, Pride of Place. It's always a successful, action-packed webinar with young people sharing the impact of the project on them. And that will be the 20th of November. And there will be future things coming up with the Futures project and with TIThe 3 and the outcomes that come from that. So we'll have a suite of resources that you can access. Make sure you sign up to our socials so that you know when things are coming up. We will have a meeting in January for General School Lincoln to put things in the calendar and make any connections that you need in January. So I've forgotten the date off the top of my head. It's 22nd, I think, of January, but I will share that in the email after the session. Okay, so we're over time, but I normally would stay on and we could do questions, but I do have another meeting, so I'm so sorry. I'll follow up with the links, and you feel free to touch base with me or ask to be put in touch with some members of the current projects if you need some advice. And if you are local to any schools, I'm sure again people will be more than happy for you to pop in and have a look at what you've been doing this year. But it's worth it. It's hard work, a good partnership project, and partnership is hard work, but the benefits are just huge, and it's part of making our world a better place. And when you can be part of that for yourself and your relationship with others, your family and your students, it's very, very powerful indeed. So thank you for joining. I'm sorry we're going to have to stop quite quickly because I'm going to have to go into the other meeting, but I really appreciate your time. So thanks everybody, and thank you for our presenters as well.
Thank you, Sharon. Kelly Boa.
Thank
Bye.
Thank you very much. Dear Khalfa.